Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Education Coordinator for Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. Thank you all so much at home for joining us for another episode this week. Before we get started today, I'd like to do a quick land acknowledgement. While we are on a video call and many of us are joining from different places, we want to remind ourselves that we gather on unceded land of the indigenous peoples. I am also joining in from so-called Richmond, Virginia, and I am currently located on the land of the Powhatan and Chickahominy peoples. If you are unsure whose land you are on and would like to find out, you can visit native-land.ca to find out. So with that being said, let's get back to the show. As summer winds down and we're entering now the fall season, we have so much to look forward to. Sunny days with cool, crisp air, changing leaves, pumpkin spice flavored everything, as well as one of my favorite programs here at Virginia IPL, done in partnership with Interfaith Power and Light DMV and Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. This is Climate in the Pulpits in the Minbar and on the Bimah 2021. This program calls faith communities to lift up the importance of caring for creation and being stewards of the earth by taking action on climate. This year, the theme for Climate in the Pulpits, in the Minbar, and on the Bimah is for the common good, honoring the kinship of our neighbors and all creation. So to tell us more about this awesome program and its origins, I have the pleasure of being joined today by a few of the organizers who have been here since the program's beginning. Today we have Joelle Novi from Interfaith Power and Light, DMV, and VAIPL's very own Faith Harris. Thanks so much for joining us today, y'all. Welcome to Environmental Justice Now. How are we doing today?
Hello, good morning.
Okay, how are you guys today?
Good morning, doing well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to start us out, can one of you share what is Climate in the Pulpits in the Minbar and on the Bimah? How did it start? And also just maybe share with us, for those who aren't aware, what are Minbars and Bimahs?
Sure. I'm Joelle Novi, as you heard, she, her, from Interfaith Power and Light DMV. So we work with Virginia IPL to serve congregations across the Commonwealth of Virginia that are working to respond to climate change as a religious issue. And we love Climate in the Pulpits. So this program began actually as the inspiration of a colleague of ours, Brooke Harper, who at the time was at Chesapeake Climate Action Network and is now at the Energy Foundation. And it's really an invitation. We invite all of the congregations in our network once a year to find a time around the same time, not necessarily the exact same weekend, but around the same time of year, when they bring messages about the urgency of the climate crisis into the plenary gatherings of their community, often the weekly worship service, and find ways to raise up these concerns as matters of spiritual urgency in our communities. The three different names all refer to the sort of center of the worship space of the different faith traditions. So the pulpit is the place from which Christian and churches share the sermon, and then the minbar is the corresponding pulpit type thing from which a leader in a Muslim community, a masjid, might deliver the khutbah or teaching about the scripture. And then in a Jewish community, the Bimah is the sometimes raised platform, but area at the front of the communal space from which the Devar Torah sermon teaching about the Torah reading is shared. So all of it is about bringing our concern for the climate crisis and a call to action to our own communities into that plenary space, into that space where we're all gathered together.
Yes, thanks so much for breaking that down for us, Joelle. And that's why I really love this program as well, because it's really just a clear invitation to do anything that suits your faith community, and uplift the importance of caring for the climate, especially as it relates to your own spirituality. So with that being said, can we talk now more about the theme for the common good, honoring the kinship of our neighbors and all creation? Faith, could you tell us a little bit more about the meaning of this theme this year and its importance, and maybe just a little bit more also even about what you see as the common good?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Joelle. I really appreciate the way that you framed the beginning of this conversation, helping us to understand how important and how we envision this as an interfaith campaign, that it's something that every faith community can participate in. And so, like, our targeting Jewish communities and Muslim communities, as well as Christian communities, but even people of conscience, right? People who care about what happens to their neighbor, who care about what's going on planet Earth, and who want to protect for the next several generations, but also for ourselves, to protect our resources, our natural resources, and to honor our life together as people of faith and of good conscience. And so those were the things that we were thinking about when we were, kind of meeting and discussing and planning for this year. What does common good mean for us? As we thought about it, we were thinking about the reality that if we're not all in this together, and if we don't all work for the interest of the other, not just ourselves, but for the other, that we're really in a position where we could lose it all for ourselves and for everyone else. And we've had the recent discussion and introduction of the IPCC report, where climate change is happening now, where there's no way to deny it. There's no way to fudge the issues, to muddy the issue, that we are experiencing the impacts of climate change and we are in a crisis. And so recognizing that, recognizing what is at loss for us and what is at stake for us, we started thinking about. And then, all over the world, all over the globe, nations and people and communities are trying to figure out how to be better stewards, not only of resources, but how do we be better stewards and neighbors? How do we care for the pandemic? Certainly has helped us to think about that in reality, the world is very small. We're all connected and interconnected. And that it's important for us to be thinking about common interests, that we can't really think of ourselves as individual nation states, or even individual communities. We have to figure out how we can come into the public square and be a part and take part and contribute our best so that we can all enjoy the best. So that when we're thinking about the common good, we're thinking about our democracy, we're thinking about how we care for the climate and the earth, and how we care for our neighbor and the animals and the resources that have been gifted to us. So the three traditions, the Abrahamic traditions, all think about and talk about a creator providing this gift to us. And so if we are truly honoring the creator, and if we truly are worshipers in all of these three traditions, we recognize that we have a responsibility to take care of the very thing that the Creator gave to us. And so that's why we chose this. And that's, Joe have some more to add to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt so acutely during this whole year and a half of the pandemic that this is the teaching, right, that our faith communities and our sacred traditions can offer to the world right now, is that we are all connected, right? The Unitarian Universalists call it the interconnected web of existence of which we are a part, right? That's the seventh principle of their faith. So so I think we can testify to that interconnection when we think about raising up the ways that the choices we make impact each other and impact the world and impact our other species, and also when we speak out from that place for stronger policies that reflect that wisdom. We opened today with some music with words from the book of Ruth in the Bible, where it says, where you go, I will go. Naomi, Ruth, commits to following. I think that's what we've learned. Like wherever any of us is going, that's where we're all going. Right? That our destiny is intertwined, and that's really the sacred insight that is leading us in this fall and in thinking about our climate in the pulpits theme. And I feel so, with every year that goes by, I feel that congregations are this powerful place to raise up these issues, but also powerful places from which to speak out and to say, we insist that our leaders enact policies that reflect that interconnection and reflect our interdependence with each other. We see that we have a single common destiny, and we insist that our leaders reflect that truth when they are thinking about decisions for all of us. So I encourage everyone who's listening to this to really think about what it would look like, not only for your congregation to participate in Climate in the Pulpits and raise up these themes, but then what would it look like to be faithful voices on behalf of strong policy, and particularly as we approach the next Virginia General Assembly session. Virginia IPL can be a resource to any congregation that's looking for ways to really live their faith by speaking out for policies that reflect our commitments.
Yeah.
So may I add one more thing? I do want to add, I think one of the things I think is so important about this initiative is that we're telling faith leaders and congregations and faith communities that they also need to be leaders in this issue, right? That we don't get to sit on the sidelines and throw peanuts at our legislators and our politicians and only require them to lead. That we have a responsibility to lead, to be engaged in the climate issues and crisis and protecting our neighbor. We have, yesterday in Richmond, we saw extreme flooding in places that normally are not flooded. Good portion 95 were flooded. And so this is something that is at our doorstep. And as faith communities, we need to be out front alongside our legislators and politicians, ensuring that everyone, first of all, understands their responsibility, understands this as a values, a moral issue, that it's not purely, it's not about politics, and it's not purely about science. It's really about our faith and the values that we hold together. And we can't be community until we actually put them into practice.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you both so much for your thoughts. Just to add on to that, I think also we recognize that this is a really critical time as well to think about and consider the common good as we approach another election here in Virginia. Today is actually the first day of early voting in Virginia. So I think considering the common good and taking ownership of the common good and our part in that, using our voice in all the ways we can, not just when we think about legislative policies, but also in times when it is time to use our voices on the ballot, casting our votes. This is a real opportunity to put your money where your mouth is and take an easy action in that way. You know, really look into the candidates that are on the ballot and see the priorities that they have, and do they align with your own values as a person of good conscience. So I definitely appreciate this theme this year, uplifting the common good and what that really means as we take action in our own faith communities. So when we consider other ways to think about how faith communities can participate in climate in the pulpits, or just being able to lift up the initiative of acting on climate, what are some ways that folks can do that? How can they participate? What are the dates? How can they actually register to be a part of Climate in the Pulpits?
So as I said, this is an invitation, and everybody is going to be the expert for how to engage your own community best. So Climate in the Pulpits, we have somewhat, we have set down the date of the first weekend in October, but we really invite you to think about any time this fall, anytime in October or this fall that would work for you. We invite you to go to the link that has been scrolling by, and you'll see it again soon, the bit.ly link that will take you to a form where you can say what congregation you're with, and that, yes, there you go, and how you'd like to participate. It will give you an option to order bulletin inserts that we can mail to you that raise up these themes, and many congregations have actually distributed them. When we have in-person worship, you distribute them, and sometimes in some churches that folks even sign them and return them in the collection plate. So that is one resource we can offer. We also will offer some sermon starters and for different traditions and ways to connect these themes to the scriptures and to your teachings. And we'll work with you to support if you would like, to invite a guest speaker or other kinds of, we can work. Both IPL affiliates and our third partner, Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, FACS, will work with you to make this as meaningful as it can be for your community. And as we said, congregations, you are the expert about how to raise this theme up in a way that fits with your community. And we know some communities are meeting in person and some are meeting online, and some it's a combination. So you'll have to decide and share with us what is the plenary gathering of your community these days where we would get the most folks opening their hearts in response to this call to action. But the first step is to sign up on that form, and don't overly worry about the suggested date. Just think about, is there a time this fall when your community is gathering already when you could sort of have a climate theme or a climate message incorporated into that gathering.
Yeah, and may I add also some of the suggested activities could be a film screening and then a discussion. You could have a panel discussion, certainly sermons, adding prayers and poetry, and actually some kind of activity. So Leah already lifted up the reality that we're in Virginia. We have an election every year. So, and this is the fall is the time to get out there and vote. So doing a voter drive, encouraging your faith community to become 100% registered voters. These are some of the really important things that you can do as a result. To connect people to the taking action, showing up for their neighbors, showing up to ensure that climate and environmental justice remains at the forefront of those who are running for office as well.
Absolutely. So what have been some of your favorite ways that faith communities have participated in Climbing in the Pulpits in the past. I know we've already listed a few ways, but like Joelle mentioned, everyone has the opportunity to make it their own and uplift climate in the way that best suits their own faith communities. So what have been some of you all's favorites just in years past?
I thought of two memories. These are both from a couple years ago, since last year was almost all online. But 2 years ago, Temple Road Day Shalom in Falls Church had a whole service with a theme around climate concerns, and they distributed the bulletin inserts to sign. And they, I just remember the rabbi and cantor singing an original song or a new song about our roots being roots into the earth and our branches into the sky. That was just very, very beautiful and really enhanced the message about being mindful of the earth. And then the other memory that I was remembering was the First United Presbyterian Church of Dale City in Woodbridge invited me to be a guest speaker at a potluck dinner and discussion. And it was just a really sweet evening. And they had put something on it was mostly just active members of the church who were interested in taking more action for creation care. But they had put, the sign on the street. They had said something about a climate conversation. And one young woman had come, was new to the church and came just because she saw that sign and and was really interested in being part of a church that was going to talk about climate change. So those are two of my Climate in the Pulpits, Northern Virginia memories.
Yeah, so I last year, middle of the pandemic, but my pastor, I'm a Unitarian Universalist here in Richmond, and my pastor Gene Pupke and I did a tag team sermon based on a essay written by Bell Hooks, and the entire service was focused on climate and care for the earth and care for creation. And it was really a really powerful experience because we were able to talk about caring for the earth as a spiritual practice and actually as a democratic practice, because to be connected, the theme of the essay was that being connected to the earth and its wildness and its rhythms actually is the closest we are to real freedom. And so it was a really powerful opportunity to share that with the congregation. They were very responsive. So it was a fun activity. So that was, and the entire service was around that theme. So it was really a great opportunity to lift up and raise up the issues of caring for our earth together as people who care about one another as well.
Well, those sound absolutely lovely, especially considering in terms of the pandemic currently, it can be especially frustrating and, finding ways to get creative to build meaningful spaces, meaningful gatherings with your faith community. But even just last year, one of the memories that I had myself that I thought was an easy way to participate in Climate in the Pulpits was Faith sent in a video, I think, to one congregation that they were able to play and share with their faith community, just speaking about the importance and the connection between our spirituality and uplifting the environment, creation. So for anyone out there who is interested, but maybe is feeling overwhelmed about finding ways to participate, it's really just about doing what works for you and your faith community. But for those who may need ideas, are there any resources available for faith communities?
Yeah, so the way this works is when you sign up at that link, the bit.ly link that's below my face, at least on my screen, you will be sent both a download link for an opportunity to download originals of both the sermon helpers, the bulletin inserts, and other resources that Virginia IPL, Interfaith Power and Light DMV, and FACS have put together for this year. But also you'll be able, if there's enough time before your planned event, you'll be able to request mailed materials like bulletin inserts photocopied for you, for example, and other supports and resources for planning your program. So so that the unlocking the resources comes with signing up for through that form, and then we know you're planning to participate, and we'll follow up with you to see how we can support you in having a really successful event.
Yeah, I do. I want to also say that we are available. We have great speakers at our, not to toot our own horns, but I've heard Joelle speak. She's a great speaker. I think I'm a pretty decent speaker. And we have great speakers on our staff, but we also have, a larger network of folk that we can recommend as well. If you're concerned about, oh, this is my first time doing this, let's try, just stick our toe in a little bit. We can make some recommendations for persons who can come and who can either virtual or in person, presentation for you.
Resources that we're also able to share right now in this moment, without registering for the link. We've created a couple of brand new resources as it relates to the election this year. We were able to create a brand new voter guide for faith communities to help them remain mindful of voting their values or voting your values for environmental justice as election day approaches this November 2nd. Along with the guide, we also have a brand new Faith Climate Justice voter calendar that allows you to track down important dates and deadlines up with the upcoming election in mind, but also it gives different prompts for reflections, prayers, as well as various links to resources within that calendar itself to get you thinking about the ways that you can bring climate to your faith community, bring action on climate to your community. So please download either of those resources. They are free and available already, just to get you thinking about what you would maybe like to participate in this year for Climate in the Pulpits, but also important things to keep in mind, important issues to keep in mind as we approach the election here in Virginia, which is a very actual critical election this year. So please check out these resources. And if you are someone who has not yet taken the pledge, we do also have a Faith Climate Justice Voter Pledge for you that is also available for individuals and your faith communities to say that you are committed to voting for climate. So please also use this as a resource as well for your faith communities to take action. But lastly, I think we are winding down now, but is there anything else that we should know about Climate in the Pulpits, in the Minbar, and on the Bimah? Faith or Joelle?
I'll just say that I want folks to really think about, there is some community for which you are the most powerful voice in the world for opening a conversation about climate change. Climate change is really hard to talk about, and opening those conversations can be hard, but actually lots and lots of people have this on their hearts. A lot of people are really worried about what's happening to our climate, but they don't have the language, or they struggle to know how to talk about it, or they worry that the people around them aren't worried too. So, Climate in the Pulpits is just one invitation among many, but I urge everyone listening today to think about what is the community for which you are the most powerful messenger in the world, and what is the most effective way to open a climate conversation in that space. And I hope that the Climate in the Pulpits might be the invitation you need to talk to a clergy person about raising this issue up in the plenary gathering of your community.
Yeah, I would just add to that that I think that in addition to the fact or the reality that you might be the one person, or you might be the community to make a difference for some individual, for a wider community or even for a legislator. I think recognizing that this is just an invitation to start, right? So if you haven't thus in your congregation, in your faith community, in your network, been talking about the issues around climate, or issues around environmental justice, issues around equity, and ensuring that the common good, the interest of every creature, every living creature, human and other, are protected and taken into consideration, and that benefit from the resources that have been provided to us. If this is just this is an invitation to begin that. Climate in the Pulpits time of year, but this can start a trajectory in your life that actually will enrich your lives and enrich your spiritual lives in really powerful ways. When I started thinking, and this is in the background or part of my faith development for most of my adult life. But when I really started digging in, it really opened up a whole new world and a whole new way of worship, of praying, of acting, and of bringing my whole life together. And so instead of having siloed, politics over here, economics over here, it all comes together when we use our value to think through what does it mean to be a climate actor? What does it mean to be an environmental justice champion or warrior, just participant in the common good? Not just me, just for my family, not just for my people, but for all our neighbors and for all of creation. So we're so very excited to to launch Climate in the Pulpits on the Bimah and in the Minbar and on the Bimah this year. And our theme is actually very inspiring. So we're excited to be part of this really great initiative.
I am also excited, and I hope you all watching at home get the opportunity to hear how excited we are and also get excited to participate in Climate in the Pulpits this year. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Joelle, so much for being here today and for this mindful conversation. Got me amped. And for those of you at home, please always be sure, if you haven't already, to keep up with VAIPL by joining our email list at this link here up on the screen. And that will allow you to keep up to date with what's happening in Climate in the Pulpits and all the other awesome work that both of our organizations are doing. So we'll be back again next week. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.